Hi guys, and welcome to Creative Cakes by Sharon. Today I'm going to show you how I made this angry bird cake of the character known as the Bomb. This tutorial is part of a Dessert Network collaboration for the Angry Birds movie, which is coming out soon. You can get the links to all of the other videos in the description box below, but for now let's get started on the Bomb. I have a 5-inch chocolate cake here which I've just cut into 3 layers, and I'm going to stick it to a 4-inch board and then stack my cake, filling some ganache in between each layer. Now I'm going to round the top of the cake off. You can see I didn't level off this top cake because the rounded top will actually come in handy for the shape I'm after. Once the top is nice and round, I'm going to round off the bottom edge by cutting in on an angle so that the knife meets the smaller board that's underneath. Once the cake has been nicely trimmed, I need to give it a quick crumb coat with the ganache to trap all the crumbs and then pop it in the fridge for about 15 minutes to set. Now I need to cover the cake properly with some more ganache, smoothing as best I can as I go along. To get a nice even finish, I'm just going to dip my spatula into some boiling water, tapping off the excess onto some paper towel, and then gliding the spatula over the cake. This helps to slightly melt the ganache and then even out any of the ridges. One final thing I'm going to do to help get a nice smooth finish is dip my paper towel into the water and then lightly wipe it over the cake to ensure a perfectly smooth finish. Now onto the decorating, and here I have some black fondant which I've rolled out, and I'll cover the cake with this fondant, smoothing as I go, opening out the flares and tucking in the fondant to the bottom with my fingers. I'm going to trim off most of the excess now and then use the back of the knife to tuck the fondant in a little further before giving it a final neat trim. Here I've used a large cutter to cut a round circle of grey fondant, and I'm going to cut off about 1/4 of the circle and stick it to the bottom front half of the cake, which is the chest area. Now for the eyes, I have some grey, white and black fondant with 3 different size round cutters. First I'll cut 2 circles out of each colour fondant. Now using the cutter I made the white circle with, I'm going to cut out some circles from the grey so that the white parts of the eye will fit in perfectly into the cutouts. I'll do the same for the pupils of the eyes, and this gives a nice flat finish to the whole eye. Now I'm just going to cut out a little wedge from the side of each eye. For the eyebrows, I'm using some red fondant, and before cutting the eyebrows I'm going to cut off a little bit from the top of each eye on an angle, then cut the red fondant so that it lines up with the top edge of the eye. The eyebrows are a sort of squared off wedge shape. Now I can stick all of these pieces onto the cake. Here I'm adding a little white dot to the top of his head, and then to create the beak I'm using some yellow fondant and first making the bottom beak, which is just a triangle, and then for the top beak I'm rolling out the fondant much thicker and cutting another triangle. To attach the beak I'm going to just use a little bit of water to stick the top section of the beak to the cake, And to support the top beak, I've inserted 2 toothpicks into the cake. Before placing the top beak into position, I'm just going to round off the very tip of the beak, then make sure to use a little bit more water to stick it onto the cake. To give this character a more angry look, I'm just going to stick the bottom beak to the top beak with a little bit of a bend in it, so he looks like he's kind of grimacing. Finally, for the top, I've just flattened out a piece of black fondant about 1 inch long and added a square piece of yellow fondant at the very tip, and using a toothpick once again I'm going to insert it into the top of the cake, and this little Angry Bird bomb cake is all complete. I hope you liked this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Guys, don't forget to check out the other fantastic tutorials from this Angry Birds collaboration. You're sure to find some really cool Angry Bird treats. The links are on screen now as well as in the description box below. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of my videos, and connect with me on any of my other social media. I hope you tune in next time, and as always guys, thanks for watching.